Harley's CEO just dropped the kind of news no real rider ever wants to hear. 6 legendary models are gone, for good. No warning, no tribute rides, not even a farewell badge, just erased from the 2026 lineup like they never existed. But behind the polished press lines sits a story of rising costs, emission crackdowns, and a company trying to outgrow its own legacy. In this video, we're breaking down what Harley won't say out loud, and why these bikes are never coming back. Stay with me till the end, because when you hear which bikes didn't survive, it'll hit harder than you expect. Number 6. Harley-Davidson Road King. There was a time when the road itself seemed to bend for the Road King. This was the machine that turned long miles into quiet reflection, that made a rider feel part of the horizon instead of chasing it. For decades, it stood as the unspoken badge of real touring men, those who measured life in fuel stops and sunsets. Its deep rumble carried across states, a sound you could feel in your ribs long after the engine cooled. But the world is changing fast, and what once defined American freedom now sits in the crosshairs of regulation, economics, and shifting priorities. Numbers alone never captured what the Road King really meant. This was not a bike you bought for flash or gadgets. It was a statement that you valued the ride itself, the space between destinations, the silence between gears. Every inch of chrome reflected a rider's patience and pride. That low-slung seat felt like a throne for those who had earned their miles the hard way. And the simple windshield, detachable in seconds, reminded you that comfort and freedom could coexist. Yet even legends begin to feel pressure. Weight, emissions, and rising costs have turned the King's crown heavier each year. For many, it still represents the last real touring Harley that stayed close to its roots, steel, torque, and honesty. No touchscreens, no fluff, just raw, air-cooled muscle and a silhouette that could be spotted a mile away. But times have a way of testing even the most loyal icons. Newer models chase digital dashboards and sportier edges, and younger buyers often walk right past the King, drawn instead to bikes that whisper efficiency instead of roar defiance. Dealers have felt the shift. Some say the Road King's quiet disappearance from showroom posters isn't an accident. It's preparation for a lineup where tradition no longer fits the budget. For riders who grew up in the saddle, that thought stings deeper than any price increase. They remember road trips when the King was the only companion they trusted through rain, wind, and darkness. The low-end torque that pulled you out of every bad stretch of highway wasn't just mechanical, it was emotional. You felt it each time the big twin exhaled beneath you, steady and proud. Losing a machine like this isn't just losing a model. It's watching a piece of American endurance fade into nostalgia. The Harley-Davidson Road King Special continues to be powered by the Milwaukee 8 114 engine, displacing approximately 1,868 cubic centimeters, or 114 cubic inches. It produces around 95 horsepower and 122 pound-feet of torque, offering that familiar, deep-throated performance characteristic of Harley touring bikes. The seat height sits low at about 26.4 inches when laden, and its running order weight is roughly 807 pounds, keeping it solid and steady on long rides. While full 2026 details have not yet been released, the model remains part of Harley's Grand American Touring lineup. What comes next may not look or sound like this old monarch of the highway, but the shadow it leaves behind will stretch across every future touring bike that dares to call itself American. The Road King may be bowing out of Harley's next chapter, but its spirit will keep riding through every man who once believed that freedom should be heavy, loud, and entirely his own. The next model in this countdown carries a similar burden, only this time, style itself becomes the struggle. If you value real updates that cut through corporate noise, take a second to like this video and subscribe, and drop a comment. What's your honest take on Harley's direction right now? Are they evolving or just dressing up the same old playbook? Number 5. Harley-Davidson Fat Boy. Few motorcycles have carried as much raw attitude as the Fat Boy. From the moment it rolled into daylight back in the early 90s, it became more than just a bike. It became a symbol of defiance, power, and unmistakable style. This was the iron embodiment of presence, a machine that never needed to shout to command attention. Every rider who ever threw a leg over one understood immediately that the Fat Boy was not built for compromise. It was built to own the boulevard and rule the open highway with unshakable confidence. Every spec line tells a story of deliberate craftsmanship. The Fat Boy has always been about physical dominance. A wide rear tire, solid disc wheels, and a low-slung stance that feels more like a power stance than a design choice. The handlebars are thick, the fenders muscular, and the tank broad enough to make even larger riders feel at home. Riding, it feels like harnessing momentum itself. When you roll that throttle, the torque hits instantly, deep and confident, like a hammer wrapped in velvet. Yet for all that muscle, the Fat Boy carries refinement that only decades of evolution can bring. But in the modern world of leaner frames and emission standards, that bulk and bravado come at a price. The Fat Boy is no lightweight. It demands strength and intention at every turn. In the city, it feels massive. In parking lots, you wrestle it more than guide it. And for older riders who once fell in love with its brute charm, those extra pounds now test endurance. As much as passion, the market is changing too. The trend toward stripped-down cruisers and sportier aesthetics makes the Fat Boy feel like a time capsule, a beautiful one, but one rooted firmly in a past that the industry seems too eager to move on from. Still, among purists, it remains sacred metal. They remember when it stole the screen in Terminator 2, cementing its image as a Hollywood outlaw and a cultural artifact. The Fat Boy carried a kind of masculinity that modern marketing rarely touches, silent strength, not digital flash. It was the kind of machine you could park anywhere and draw a crowd without saying a word. That reputation never left, even if the industry has started treating it like a relic. For the men who still ride it, the Fat Boy is a reminder that design should make you feel something in your gut, not just impress you on paper. The chrome-heavy silhouette, the deep rumble of the Milwaukee 8, and the confidence that comes from balancing nearly 700 pounds of steel. These things are irreplaceable. It is not built for every rider, and that is exactly why it matters. In a world of safe, efficient sameness, the Fat Boy stands proud as the last unapologetically bold cruiser left on the road. The Harley-Davidson Fat Boy features the newer Milwaukee 8 117 Custom V-Twin, displacing roughly 1,917 cubic centimeters. In its United States configuration, it develops about 101 horsepower and 122 pound-feet of torque. The Fat Boy maintains its muscular stance and chrome presence, with a seat height of 26.6 inches and a running weight near 694 pounds. Its United States starting price is listed from $22,599, positioning it as one of the flagship cruisers in Harley's 2026 lineup. The Fat Boy has never begged for approval. It exists for riders who still believe a motorcycle should look like a sculpture and sound like thunder. Whether or not it survives the next round of corporate decisions, its legend is secure. It will always represent the last stand of the true heavyweight cruiser, the machine that made the road bow its head in respect. The next bike on this list carries the same loyal heart, but with a nostalgic edge that makes its disappearance even harder to swallow. The bikes may change, but good gear never goes out of style check the description for what I use on every ride. Number 4. Harley-Davidson Heritage Classic. Some motorcycles carry stories instead of mileage, and the Heritage Classic is one of them. For decades, this bike has embodied the bridge between vintage soul and modern reliability. It is the machine you see gliding down old highways under the weight of saddlebags that have crossed more counties than most cars ever will. The Heritage has always been about that timeless blend chrome and leather, nostalgia and endurance, the kind of machine that makes every trip feel like a chapter in a much larger story. It is more than a cruiser. It is the definition of old-school America on two wheels. Everything about the Heritage speaks to a time when motorcycles were built to feel alive, not to chase trends. The leather saddlebags, the studded seat, and the detachable windshield all nod to Harley's golden age, when riders valued endurance and pride more than screens and gadgets. When you sit on this bike, you can almost hear echoes of the 50s and 60s, when the open road was an escape, not a hashtag. The rumble of that Milwaukee 8 114 isn't just noise, it's lineage. It is the same heartbeat that's powered countless cross-country rides, rallies, and late-night roadside repairs shared between brothers on the asphalt. But like every legend, the Heritage now faces a new kind of roadblock. The industry's relentless shift toward electronics and compliance has pushed this classic toward the edge of extinction. Riders who once saw it as the perfect middle ground between touring and nostalgia now find themselves staring at digital dashboards and wondering where all the soul went. Some dealers already whisper that the Heritage might not survive beyond the next lineup refresh, its air-cooled roots making it too costly to adapt to future standards. To loyalists, that sounds less like progress and more like betrayal. Still, there's something unshakable about this bike. It was never about keeping up with technology, it was about keeping pace with memory. The Heritage gives older riders a reason to believe that authenticity still matters. The way the wind tugs at that tall windshield, the way chrome catches a sunset, the way every mile hums with the same rhythm riders heard 50 years ago. It is all deliberate. It reminds anyone who's ever ridden long distance that motorcycles aren't supposed to be silent or sterile. They are supposed to breathe, shake, and roar. Next, the Heritage Classic blends vintage style with modern muscle. It now runs Harley's Milwaukee 8 117 engine, producing about 91 horsepower and 115 pound-feet of torque. The seat height measures approximately 27.2 inches, making it a comfortable touring cruiser hybrid. Pricing for the United States market starts around $19,999, and the bike retains its signature leather saddlebags, detachable windshield, and chrome detailing. Its possible disappearance cuts deeper than the loss of a model. It represents the slow fading of a philosophy. The Heritage Classic was proof that progress and tradition could coexist on the same chassis, and if it truly rides off into history, it will do so with dignity, chrome gleaming, leaving behind an empty space no touchscreen can fill. The next motorcycle in this countdown carries that same spirit of endurance, but its fight is no longer against time. It is against the modern world's need to reinvent everything that was already right. Number 3. Harley-Davidson Street Bob. Among Harley's modern lineup, few bikes hold on to the stripped-down spirit of true American riding like the Street Bob. It was built for the purist, the kind of rider who doesn't need luxury to feel alive. Just an honest engine, two wheels, and open road. The Street Bob carries that old-school rebel character, but beneath it lies a modern dilemma. How long can simplicity survive in a world obsessed with technology? This machine still echoes the early days of Harley craftsmanship, when minimalism wasn't a design choice, it was a declaration of independence. From a distance, the Street Bob looks like a time traveler from Harley's golden years, spare, muscular, and unapologetic. No chrome excess, no oversized panels, no corporate polish. Just matte metal, raw torque, and the kind of silhouette that could have rolled straight out of a 1970s garage. The handlebars stretch wide and high, the mini-ape setup, giving every rider that commanding posture once reserved for outlaws and long-haul wanderers. And when you fire it up, the Milwaukee 8 114 comes alive with that unmistakable base-a-living reminder that rebellion can still be engineered. Yet even a bike this faithful to Harley's roots isn't immune to modern pressure. Environmental compliance, cost-cutting, and shifting demographics are turning machines like this into endangered species. Younger riders often walk right past the street bob, calling it too old school or too heavy, while veteran riders see it as one of the last real Harleys left standing. That split audience is exactly the problem. The street bob represents authenticity, but authenticity doesn't always sell in an age that measures value by touchscreen size. Still, there's a purity in this model that refuses to bow to marketing. You don't ride the street bob to impress anyone. You ride it because it speaks your language. Every vibration, every gear change, every surge of torque through your boots reminds you that freedom used to be mechanical, not digital. The minimalist design means you feel everything: the road, the wind, even your own heartbeat syncing with the rhythm of that engine. It's the kind of riding experience that demands respect and rewards those who understand it. But the writing is on the wall. Rumors swirl that models like the street bob may not fit Harley's long-term strategy, too simple to justify rising costs, too classic to meet future standards. The company's focus on new technology and global markets could mean the slow fading of bikes built for the American backroads rather than showroom appeal. For riders who grew up fixing their own clutches and tuning carburetors by ear, that's more than disappointing. It feels like losing a brother. The Street Bob 117 remains one of Harley's most stripped-down, authentic cruisers. It is powered by the same Milwaukee 8 117 engine with 1,917 cubic centimeters of displacement, rated at about 98 horsepower and 120 pound-feet of torque. The bike weighs roughly 646 pounds in running order, with a low 25.8-inch seat height that reinforces its minimalist appeal. For 2026, it continues in the United States cruiser family with a starting price near $14,999. When you ride one, you don't think about specs or trends. You think about miles, about purpose, about why you started riding in the first place. That's the kind of truth no electric future can silence. And as Harley's lineup moves further into modernization, the Street Bob stands like a lone survivor, a stripped steel reminder that real freedom was never about convenience. The next motorcycle on this list proves that even performance itself can't escape the weight of evolution, especially when legacy becomes both a blessing and a burden. Number 2. Harley-Davidson Low Rider S. Among the modern Harleys that still carry a trace of rebellion, the Low Rider S stands tall. It is not a bike that tries to please everyone. It is a machine built for those who still crave that direct connection between throttle and heartbeat. Born from the old-school performance lineage of the 70s and refined through decades of torque-driven engineering, the Low Rider S remains a rider's motorcycle, raw, dark, and deliberate. It does not beg for attention, it earns it. But as the market shifts toward technology and compliance, even this unapologetic powerhouse finds itself caught between legacy and survival. Every detail of the Low Rider S is purpose-built. The wide drag-style handlebars sit high on risers, placing the rider in that forward, aggressive posture that feels equal parts control and confrontation. The dark bronze wheels, the minimal chrome, the blackout treatment across the frame, it all speaks one language: performance with attitude. The Milwaukee 8 117 engine at its core is the heart of Harley's modern muscle, delivering torque that comes on low and hits like a tidal wave. For seasoned riders, that means one thing: this bike feels alive every time you twist the throttle. Yet behind that raw emotion lies a quiet truth. The Low Rider S, for all its defiance, is also a symbol of Harley's narrowing road. The company has tried to modernize without losing its soul. But performance bikes like this sit in a tough spot. They appeal deeply to experienced riders who grew up with carburetors and steel tanks. But the next generation often sees them as heavy, loud, and old-fashioned. That disconnect has made the Lowrider S both a cult favorite and a financial question mark. The balance between tradition and progress has never been easy for Harley, and this bike is the perfect example. It delivers the punch of classic torque while pushing into modern handling territory, yet its weight and size make it less forgiving than the leaner machines emerging from overseas competitors. Riders who love the Lowrider S accept its flaws as part of its character, because perfection was never the goal. The goal was truth on two wheels, and in that respect, this bike delivers more honesty per mile than anything wearing a touchscreen. There's a raw satisfaction in how it rides. The throttle responds with authority, the suspension holds firm through every corner, and the exhaust tone feels like a handshake with the past. It is everything a Harley should be, a machine that demands respect and rewards mastery. But that same purity now works against it. Industry regulations tighten each year, and production costs climb alongside emission demands. Dealers whisper that the Lowrider S may soon face revision or retirement, not because it failed, but because the times have changed. The Lowrider S represents Harley's performance-oriented edge using a high-output Milwaukee 8 117 engine that delivers around 114 horsepower and 128 pound-feet of torque from its 1,917 cubic centimeters of displacement. It features an aggressive rider triangle with a seat height of roughly 28.1 inches and inverted front forks for improved handling. The 2026 United States price starts at $19,999, and the model remains a key part of the company's performance cruiser range. When you park the Lowrider S after a hard run, the engine ticks with heat, and the silence feels earned. Every mark of grime, every scrape, every shudder of that Milwaukee 8 tells a story worth keeping. That is what real riders understand. Machines like this are not disposable, they are chapters of identity. The next and final motorcycle in this countdown closes the list not with aggression, but with authority, a legend that defines what Harley-Davidson once stood for and what it risks losing forever. If you've made it this far, you understand what's truly at stake for Harley's future. Subscribe now and stay with us as we uncover what comes next for the riders, the factories, and the machines that still define American steel. Number 1. Harley-Davidson Breakout 117. There are bikes that symbolize rebellion, and then there are those that embody it. The Breakout was always one of the latter, a long, low, unapologetic muscle cruiser built not for convenience, but for presence. Its stretched stance and massive rear tire didn't just look fast standing still, they demanded respect on the street. For years, it carried the torch for raw American horsepower when the market was chasing refinement and restraint. The Breakout wasn't about blending in. It was about standing out, even when that stance came with sacrifice. The Breakout was never meant to be everyone's bike. It was a statement. Every inch of chrome, every pulse from that 117 engine reminded riders that Harley could still build a machine that looked dangerous sitting still. But that same defiance is what's now putting it at risk. As emissions laws tighten and global regulations grow stricter, the Breakout's unapologetic powertrain and wide rear tire have become targets of a system that values compliance over character. What once made it iconic now makes it unsustainable in the eyes of modern lawmakers. For the seasoned rider, though, those numbers mean something more. They represent freedom before filters machines built to be ridden, not managed by a committee. The Breakout doesn't whisper, it declares. It's not polite, and that's the point. Every ride reminds the owner that motorcycles weren't created to please everyone. They were built to awaken something in the rider that the rest of the world forgot existed. Older riders often describe the Breakout as the last real show of Harley's wild side. Before electric mandates, before touring comfort became a priority, this was a machine built around a singular goal, making the rider feel alive. Its torque delivery hits like a hammer, its throttle response immediate, its stance aggressive. On open highways, the Breakout doesn't float. It roars. It feels heavy in the hands, solid beneath the boots, and unfiltered in every gear. And that's exactly what loyalists love about it. But the numbers don't lie. In recent years, the Breakout struggled to keep up with tightening noise regulations, fuel economy targets, and evolving safety standards. It's been quietly retired from some global markets already, and whispers suggest that by 2026, it may follow other discontinued Harley icons into the company's archives. For riders who see motorcycles as art in motion, that's more than a business decision, it's a cultural loss. Yet for those who own one, the story doesn't end there. Every Breakout that's already been built still carries the legacy of what Harley once dared to make. Every throttle twist is a reminder that real metal and combustion spirit can't be legislated away. It may be the last of its breed, a factory custom that defied conformity until the very end. The Breakout 117 stands not as a casualty of change, but as a monument to everything Harley once promised: torque without compromise, design without apology, and power that answered to no one. Its end may mark the close of an era, but its echo will live wherever riders still believe that rebellion is worth the ride. Finally, the Breakout 117 carries forward Harley-Davidson's long and low muscle cruiser design. Powered by the same Milwaukee 8 117 V-twin engine, displacing approximately 1,923 cubic centimeters. It produces roughly 103 horsepower and 126 pound-feet of torque, paired with a sleek, stretched frame and a massive 240mm rear tire. The bike weighs about 681 pounds wet, with a seat height around 25.6 inches. For the United States market, it begins at $22,999 and remains part of Harley's official 2026 cruiser lineup.